Hey, what's up, sports fans? It is I, the actual King Smith, live here Wednesday, October the 22nd at WTF Nation Radio / U.S. Army WTF Moments. I am a U.S. Air Force veteran, and today I have another co host. But before I do, hold on. I need my assistant to turn on the neon sign. The sports bar is on. We have a new co host today. I'm going to let this man introduce himself to the sports bar, being a first time co host here at the sports bar. What's up, brother? Introduce yourself to the Sports Bar Nation.
You didn't tell me I was going to have to talk about myself. You put me on the spot. Nah, K-Mill here. I've mostly been helping with Smoke Pit and Pop Culture Warrior, but like dabble in sports a little bit. I'm one of those playoff people only get interested in the playoffs, kind of thing. So nah, but no, happy to be here. Army vet myself. Uh, active duty, National Guard. Now I'm a dirty defense contractor here in the Northern Virginia area. So happy to be here. Hopefully, I can bring a little bit. I don't think I could ever live up to what Coach can bring to the table, but I'll do my best.
You're a Jets fan, are you?
No,
Good, good. Because, man, I don't know if I could have another Jets fan co host pop up here. Coach's brain sometimes seems like it wants to pop out of his head anytime anybody mentions the New York Jets record. That team is tragic.
no self-inflicted wounds over here.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, hope y'all are doing great. Hope y'all are doing fine. There are going to be two programs that are on here tonight at WTF Nation Radio following the sports bar. We're going to have Radar come on live with the Smoke Pit a little bit after the sports bar ends. So once we end, stick around, maybe grab yourself a little nightcap or whatnot, and tune in to the Smoke Pit here this evening. But tonight, we are going to give our sports updates the only way that we know how. Got a couple of funny videos and photos that some people have sent to me. And we're going to end tonight on the tragic story of Doug Martin. K Mills, do you remember who Doug Martin was?
I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying to remember. It sounds familiar. Remind me.
So Doug Martin was a pro NFL player. They called him the muscle hamster, short in stature, but he was like built
The
like a
Raiders,
tank.
right?
Raiders and the Buccaneers,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
yeah.
He's a little bit younger than I am, which is why I knew who he was. Plus, I played running back, so I always like to keep up with the backs and stuff, man, as I was coming up. He tragically passed away in police custody here recently, and the circumstances around it when as more details come out about his life, it makes you wonder about how some of these players' life is once they leave the league. And there's some suspicious stuff surrounding this passing that I want to talk about and maybe see what the people that are watching are going to have to say. So that's going to be our final story for today. But let's get into the first thing here. I'm going to see if I can do this proper and do this right. Okay, boom. I didn't mess anything up starting out. Let's see. Let's get into um let's get into this now. K Mills, you aren't gonna be able to hear this, but the people out there listening are. If you know who Kendrick Perkins is, the NBA's back. Kendrick Perkins used to be a former NBA player. He wasn't great. He was a big guy that played the big man role, and he says some of the wildest things that come out of his mouth. But listen to what he said the other day that caused him to go viral. Take a listen.
Well done.
You ready for this one?
God.
What you
Okay.
need ibuprofen for when you have a perk?
Uh,
It was the lean back. So what he said, what do you need ibuprofen for when you've got a perk? Now Perkinson is Perkins is his last name, and he does it, and he sits back with the most confident lean back when he's done too. Y'all, watch it again.
You ready for this one?
God.
What you
Okay.
need ibuprofen for when you have a perk?
Uh,
Her reaction.
She just goes, "Oh my goodness," and then he sits back
I,
with the
the lean.
lean, and then they cut immediately. Now, random. He said ibuprofen. How is it properly pronounced?
I've always questioned that myself ever since I was in the army.
Uh huh.
Is it ibuprofen? Ibuprofen? Is it like crayon, depending on where you, what part of the country you hail from, and how you pronounce it?
Right? One of the other staff from WTF Nation Radio posted on their page, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've been saying it wrong this entire time too. It's ibuprofen. people don't really pronounce the U in it, but it is IBU and then profin. So it's properly pronounced ibuprofen, but nobody says it that way.
The ibuprofen's more fun.
It is, and it rolls off the tongue a lot easier too. Sports fans, have y'all been pronouncing it properly, or have y'all been jacking it up as well? Ibuprofen. We've got a couple of people in the building, and let's see if I could bring up the chat here. Oh yeah, the chat's not gonna show right. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let's bring you over here, and let's bring me. Ooh, oh no, oh hold on, nope. Got to bring you down here. All right, y'all be doing it live. There we go. There we go. We are hugging each other. Whisper sweet nothings into my ear while I fix this. There we go. All right, I've got us fixed now. So we have Brandon Rodriguez in the building. Said first. You were first, Brandon. You were first. Absolutely. I appreciate you commenting. Thanks for tuning in. Michelle Early, my boo thing is in the building. She said good evening with an exclamation emoji. I like it. Said good evening. Brandon said that I think it's pronounced the second way. Ibuprofen. Yes, but think about the way that people, say it whenever you hear them. They don't say ibuprofen. They go ibuprofen. Ibuprofen. I be stroking. Anyway. Um, and let's see. Any other comments? Let me go over here to this other. We don't have anybody over here. All right. So, sports recap. Let's get into it. Sports recap here. And let me bring up the chat while I do that. Man, we are. Bam. All right. Got it proper. Okay. So, sports recap here. Actually, no. My assistant did this wrong. We're going to get into the Fantasy Football League updates. There we go. Put it up on the screen. Bam. Okay, I beat Radar last week to move my team to 5-2. Turd Ferguson just can't catch a break. Won the first game and have lost 6 straight since, losing 111 to 96. Mad Mike pulled a win. He's almost over 500. Winning his fantasy league as the second. I think he was the second highest scoring. Yeah, he was the second highest scoring, 140 to 132. That's a tough loss, Spanky. But Spanky also didn't set her lineup either, because had she had one player that was listed as out and put anybody in, she actually could have won that game. Riley Reed option. I love that name. Highest scoring, 146 to 134. That 146 might be the number of people that Riley Reed has slept with on air. Just pointing that out. Hurt so good. Beating password is Taco, 117 to 90. Pop Culture Warrior in this league is doing great because in our other league, he is winless. Literally 0-7 going into week 8 in the NFL. I've never seen that before in fantasy. But he's dominating in this league, winning 119 to 115. He had a sweat, but he pulled it off. And then Coach, who was 0-5, is now on a 2-game win streak. I don't think he has a chance of making it to the playoffs, as we have 12 or 14 teams in this league and only the top 4 advance to the playoffs. So mathematically, I think he might be out, but I'm not entirely too sure. And look, he barely won by 5 points against Flashers Revenge, 69 to 64. So if you take a look at the standings, again, top 4 makes it to the playoffs. It's still early, right? So, and if you look at the records from number 2 to, let's go down here to number 8. I mean, it's anybody's race. And for those of y'all in our listeners league, it was free to join. We're going to do this every year. We prefer you to be active, because even though it's free to join, which that might change, because sometimes you got to have some skin in the game in order to care about your outcomes and managing your team each week. We are giving away prizes. The winner of this year's Fantasy Football League is going to win a $50 Amazon gift card, as well as a pair of Air Jordan 1s, sized to your feetsies and sent to your house. So if you wanted some Air Jordan 1s and wanted somebody else to pay for them, you should have joined our listeners league and then won it, and you would get yourself a pair of free Jordan 1s. So Ensure that you got your lineup set for tomorrow, as there is a Thursday night football game going into the NFL season here upcoming. Have you played fantasy football, K Mills?
I did not play this year, but I've played in the past. I just had a lot of work stuff going on. I just did not want any distractions and annoy people around me while I sit and complain about fantasy. The last time I did play, I went 0-4 and then won the league I was in.
Nice. Hey, that's a good way to start, to be 0-4 and be like, this shit sucks, and then come back and win. Bravo to you, man.
It's probably something to do with like once I hit 0-4, I was like, you know what, I got nothing to work, to nothing left to lose. Let me just go and risk everything on swapping players every week, and it worked out for me.
Very nice. I've been doing fantasy football since 2008. I want to say 2007, 2008. And at one point, I want to say 2014, I was in like 8 different leagues. And this is when it wasn't as easy to manage multiple teams, even across the same app, as it is now, as you could manage your team from your phone. It was easier to do it from the web. And eventually, over time, I whittled it down to those that I really care about. We've done this league for WTF Nation Radio for 2 seasons, I want to say. And in my personal league, I'm in one since 2013 that has about the same core group of 6 that started with us in 2013. And over the last 6 years, it's shifted a bit, but we've had the same core group, mostly veterans. And it's a money league where the top prize wins a nice little chunk of change. So when you put in big money, you really care about managing your team week to week.
Now, how many? You said you had 8 leagues going on that year. How many of those did you have money set on?
All 8. All 8.
That's got me. That's got my ADHD going. ADH no. No.
I bet it would, man. I was a net positive that year, not by a lot, only because in one league, the top prize was $800, and in total, I spent $600 between the 8 leagues. So, I got lucky in that the one that was $800 was like a winner. Like first place won 80% and second place won 20. So winning that big one caused me to be a net positive, but not a lot. And I just decided at that point when I tried it, I loved it, but it was just too much week to week. And then you would have in one league the team that uh 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 you had players that would do well in this league that would cause you to win, but in another league would cause you to lose. And I just said, yeah, man, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, yeah, no thanks. Maybe I'll play with the league, the league next year, depending on how crazy life is.
I missed that. I be hurting. I like that. I be hurting. See, David Cunningham. David Cunningham's in the building. He said it's called acetaminophen. I feel weird saying that. Is that right? Acetaminophen. Acetaminophen.
Well,
Roll Tide.
no, ibuprofen is the Motrin. Acetaminophen is Tylenol. That's the one that causes the autism.
Were you enlisted or commissioned?
I was enlisted.
Got 2 enlisted people trying to say syllables with more than 5 syllables. Come on, David.
I haven't found anybody who can pronounce that word properly.
Brittany helped us out, said, I see the Minophen. Bam. I like it. I like it. Now let's go back up here. Let's see. Where are my notes at? My notes are not noting at the moment. Here we go. Scroll back up. Y'all give me a second. Had to make some minor changes before we went live. That's because that isn't the right one. Okay, let's go into the NCAA recap here. So in football, week 8, we have the Missouri Tigers defeated Auburn 23-17 in a double overtime thriller to make the SEC race pretty interesting. My team, the Alabama Crimson Tide, defeated the Tennessee Volunteers 30-27. That was an interesting play call towards the end of the second quarter, in which Tennessee went for it multiple times. Instead of kicking 3 to get down to like the 4-yard line, and they end up throwing a pick six as time was expiring that helped spread the gap. Which that game for the first 3 quarters got real interesting. And then in the fourth quarter, Tennessee's defense just, if y'all watch the game and y'all know football, their cornerbacks were sitting 8 to 10 yards from their wide receiver, and at the snap of the ball would still backpedal. Now, I don't know if they do that because they're crazy fast, but Alabama was eating that up because they would be able to throw it 7, 8 yards down the field, or give a little bit more time and get that 10 to 15 yard completions. And if they're not able to tighten that up on defense, I don't know how they think that they have a chance of winning the SEC or the playoffs this year. Who's your college football team, K-Mill?
I'm the I'm UCF alumni, so I am
Hey,
UCF alum fan, and that could be painful sometimes.
man, when did you go there?
Let's see, I was class of 2008.
No doubt, man. That's dope. That's dope. That would have been if
The
I
George
could,
O'Leary years.
man. If I could have gotten out after I was enlisted, used my GI Bill to go to school on a campus. If it wasn't going to be Alabama, just so that I could say that I graduated from the University of Alabama and was an Alabama alum, UCF was my second choice. I mean,
Oh,
just the
really?
location, their program suited to what I was looking for as well, um, and the scenery. The scenery was pretty dope for me, man. I know I would have enjoyed it down there.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad school. I was an economics major, and so I was always constantly complaining about the sports program. I think it was at one point there that like the business department. Well, business wasn't too bad. The arts program, because I had a girlfriend at the time that was in arts, and her program got cut, and I would basically were like, "Hey, if you guys can raise $5,000, we'll bring your program back." Meanwhile, I just watched them put like 50 rows of palm trees up the main drag, and how much did that cost? But whatever. A long time ago. It's just another school. Well, meanwhile, I think the football team was getting unsecured loans at the same time. So
It,
they found out in an audit. They're like, "Why are they getting unsecured loans?"
uh-huh.
So, but I think that's a story at every football. That's every school. There's always that gripe. So,
Yep. You've got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish beating the USC Trojans 34-24. BYU versus their rival Utah in the state of religious people. Uh, BYU had a late touchdown run, securing the win to remain one of the undefeated teams in NCAA football. The Georgia Bulldogs versus Ole Miss. That game right there. Ole Miss had the game for the first 3 quarters. And then Georgia said, you know what? Nah, we're going to turn things around, and ended up scoring, I think, 33 points in the fourth quarter, 35 points, something like that, to win 43-35. That saw Georgia's offense put up points very quickly right there in the fourth quarter. We got the Arizona Sun Devils defeated Texas Tech 26-22, and South Florida beat the Florida Atlantic Owls, in which people are sleeping on South Florida, but they won 48-13, and that win helped put them on the map to climb into the AP Top 25 poll.
yep,
South Florida.
number 18. That was our rival, the War and I-4.
Mm-hmm.
South Florida.
When looking at the standings for NCAA football here, taking a look at the top 25, there aren't any surprises. Some people are ignoring the fact that Indiana is also undefeated as well. You've got, here are the undefeated teams: the Ohio State Buckeyes, IU, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, and BYU. Indiana sits number 2, and they've got 6 first place votes out of the AP Top 25. So it's not a unanimous from the Associated Press, while the Buckeyes have 60. And if you go to the coaches poll, it is a unanimous with the Buckeyes being number 1. dropping Miami 7 spots in both polls, losing that Thursday game, which made me put a smile on my face. And everybody's like, "Oh, they're back, they're back," and I'm like, "Shut up! This does not need to be a thing. We do not need Miami and the U saying that they're back."
I can't remember the last time Miami was like a really good team, since maybe first time I watched Ace Ventura.
It's nice for their program. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're one of the programs that has some prestige to it. Alabama, Texas, Notre Dame, USC. I kind of want to say Pitt, maybe. Nah, Pitt's more in this region, maybe. Um, and then maybe you would say Oregon.
Mm.
Am I missing chat? Are there any college teams, especially around college football, that has that prestige stink to them? I can't think of any outside of the ones that I've named.
It's normally going to be like what private schools, right? Like because Miami is a private school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I always remember that would be in like growing up in Florida. It was kind of like the running joke, or like if you're rich, you're like, oh, he's going to go to Miami.
Yep. And get down there and party. But let me check the chat here before I move to the next segment here. All right, coming over to the chat. Anybody in the chat got any inputs? Nope. All right, going to the pros. Pros, week 7. Ho. In the Unk Bowl, the Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Steelers 33-21 in a Thursday night classic back and forth in which Joe Flacco led the game-winning drive that was capped by a field goal. Jamar Chase could not be stopped with a historic night where he had 16. That is a 1 and a 6. 16 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown. The Chicago Bears beat the New Orleans Saints 26-14, winning their 4th consecutive game and ending the 8-game losing streak to the Saints. The Philadelphia Eagles showed a passing games. It wasn't a Jalen Hurts 10 of 16 for 84 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. No, he put the ball up in the air. His wide receivers feasted, and they run a tough road win against the Minnesota Vikings 28-22. The Kansas City Chiefs shut out the Raiders. The Raiders, I don't think anybody saw a shutout coming. Nobody saw the Raiders winning that game, but nobody saw a shutout. That Chiefs team is like the Raiders, my bad. It's like the little engine that could. They lost 31-0. The Rams routed the Jaguars in a game that was played in London with Matthew Stafford throwing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touchdown passes. Let me get that on screen. 5. The Patriots defeat the Titans 31-13. Cam Ward and that offense just does not look good. The Carolina Panthers beat the Jets 13-6. 13-6 to make the Jets winless still, while the Cleveland Browns dusted the Miami Dolphins. Tua got benched in the second half of that game, handling the struggling Dolphins. Another tough loss. Now, somebody sent me something here about the Jets that I had to play this. I cried laughing, and here it goes, y'all. Listen to this piece of comedy.
Y'all see them and get your thoughts on the game.
I hate this team. I was born into this, and I'm not gonna ever. I'm always a Jets fan, but like, I hate this team.
He goes, I hate this team. I was born into it. I'm never gonna not be a Jets fan. And then it was like you saw everything about being a Jets fan calculating in his head, and then he just ended with, I hate this team, and then walked off. Oh man, I can imagine that is coach every single week when the Jets are playing.
Well, that kid's already learned at a very young age how to take an L, and I think he's ready to join the military at any given time.
Oh man, 100%. He has the right attitude already.
It's like, this sucks, but it's like I love the Army, but I hate the Army at the same time, So, but You know what? That kid has the spirit of what the NFL was originally about before,
Yes.
like all these sports went to just constant trades and buyouts and all this other stuff. Because
Uh-huh.
it's like that's kind of one of the things that always disenfranchised me about professional sports anymore. Is it's like there's not really any kind of long-term loyalty anymore. So it's like that kid is where the Patriots were during what was it like the 2000s, when I've heard Bill Burr talk about growing up and the Patriots being horrible, then they hit those dynasty years. So like all those fans forgot what that feeling was, and now they're they're not feeling a bit too bad this year, but then I think in the last couple of years since Brady left.
Yep. Now I need you to fill some airtime while I make the transition here. We're gonna get into the World Series, so give me some airtime here. Maybe about 30 seconds there, K Mills. You got this. I have faith.
All right. Well, this is something I brought up before the call. So I saw that Lou Gehrig's jersey, his final Yankees home game jersey, sold for $2.7 million. That came out today. So, I mean, that's pretty wild for some fabric, but I guess it's Lou Gehrig, and then that same auction, apparently Jackie Robinson's Hall of Fame ring sold for just under $700,000. And then the bat that was likely used by Lou Gehrig in the final World Series in 1938 sold for just around $1.2 million. So that was a pretty good premium for something that was very likely. So,
Man, Lou Gehrig's 2.7 million.
for a jersey.
Do you happen to know what the previous price on it was if it was sold prior?
I think it was in somebody's collection for a long time, so I don't see any previous prices for it. I didn't dig into it too much, but I think it was where did it say? David Hunt, President, luckiest man. No, I forgot. Of Dr. GB Espy's collection. Now that sounds like old white people money if I
Oh,
ever heard it.
that is definitely old white people money. 100%. I want to make friends with an old white person that has a yacht, that has a lot of disposable income, that just wants company. This is me putting that out there in the world. If you got old white person money and a lot of disposable income where you could spend $2.7 million on a jersey, the actual King Smith would like to be your friend. Shoot me an email at king or have your assistant send me an email at king@wtfnationradio.com and I will gladly be your friend. I will talk about whatever you want to talk about. I will be there to the very end because I need to know who you are.
Yeah, I
Man.
mean, if you go by initials for your first and middle name, that definitely has like it sounds like something you would hear from like I don't know the 30s before Jackie Robinson started playing. Like when Shane Gillis talks about when white people lost their coolness,
Uh-huh.
like Dr. GBSB come up to the plate,
Yeah.
and then after Jackie Robinson hit that for Jackie Robinson hits the swings in. Oh God, it's gone.
Yeah. Wearing a what's it called, an ascot or one
Something
of
like
them
that. Yeah.
fancy hats with a scarf around his neck
Yeah.
and some high waist pants.
Exactly.
100%. Well, speaking of baseball, all right, how much do you think that a ticket to the World Series would cost?
Well, seeing that we got one of the favored teams, if it's not the Yankees, it's the Dodgers anymore. And now I think the Dodgers even more of a premium because they got Otani superstar. So, nosebleed's going to be between $2,000 and $3,000 probably is what I'm guessing.
Okay. All right. What if I told you
starting out
that there are tickets that could be sold for let's say $10,000?
Oh, I could see that easily.
And you're in a relationship, and babe, $10,392.47 out of our checking account, and then that person goes, "Is it what I think it is?" And then you take a look and you scroll up and you see that it is for the World Series game this Friday. Do you think that relationship lasts there, K Mills?
Nope, not unless it's Dr. GBSP.
Man, to this guy, if this is a true photo, shout out to Teddy G for sending me this photo. If this is legit and not a meme, oh my goodness, I need for that person to come on to the sports bar and talk about how this went down because that shit is hilarious.
Are they even good seats?
Looking at that, let's see. 127 row 13. So when I look, because I've got Vivid seats set up here. So 127, yeah, that is around what's that? That's just behind home plate and third base on the left hand lower side.
You
And
theoretically could catch a foul ball, maybe say hi to one of the players.
yep. I'm looking at, so when I look at lower level 127, row 7, you're talking about $2,361. Row 12, it goes, the prices go up. You're looking at for one ticket, $4,067 for one ticket. Goodness gracious. Now, let's get into it. We have the Toronto Blue Jays playing against the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I was gonna say,
Go
oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say before I forget this thought, I'm like,
Yeah.
he can't be that smart. He's got a joint checking account with the not even fiance yet.
Hey.
Mm.
You know, I'm in the relationship status of someone that I am not married to. We have a joint savings, but we do not have a joint checking account. And I don't see the need to do it.
But you don't have $10,000 in there either to wreck it.
I do not have $10,000 in there to wreck it. Nope.
Nope.
You've got the Los Angeles Dodgers playing against the Toronto Blue Jays going into game 1 of a 7-game series this Friday. As of right now, the Dodgers are favored to win over the Blue Jays. But when we go back and we take a look at the playoffs here, the Toronto Blue Jays had the toughest time making it to the World Series, despite being the number 1 team. As they had the bye week starting out, they ended up beating the Yankees in a series 3-1, and they got to Seattle, and they played the Mariner, which was number 1 versus number 2 coming out of the American League, and it was both teams that had the bye at 1 and 2, and that went to a true 7-game series in which the Blue Jays won 4-3 to advance to the World Series. Now the Dodgers were number 3. They played Philly before getting to the Brewers, and they blew through this as they won against the Reds 2-0 in a best game of 3. They beat the Phillies 3-1, and they pulled through the Brewers 4-0. Now, I'm looking at this, looking at the Dodgers favorite to win the overall World Series. I don't know much about baseball, so I'm going to defer to you. What do you think about this World Series and the two teams that are playing, and who do you have winning?
Well, I can't say that I've paid attention to baseball too much lately, but I do know that I have to comment on the fact that, of course, it's either the Yankees or the Dodgers that are in the World Series. So it's like the NFL that either the Chiefs or the Patriots or LA, one of those big names, bigger franchises are going to be in. But I mean, I'm going to have to say LA is probably favored to win the whole series. They got Ohtani, Wonder Boy from across the Pacific. But I'm always one that likes to go for the underdog. So I'll root for the Blue Jays, even though I was born in California. But don't hold that against me. I will root for the Toronto. Right, that's where they're from, Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll root for the Canucks. Why not?
them going to the World Series shifted other sports market stuff as well with hockey and basketball. So they shifted some of the games in the other sports to accommodate Toronto making it to the World Series. So they're pulling for their teams up there in Canada.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's one of those markets where they don't get that much that kind of playoff action. So whatever they'll take whatever they can get, So they'll probably literally play a hockey game out on someone's backyard if they need to. If that means that their team's still in the World Series. It's like when I was still living in Texas and I would go to um, I could not figure out how those guys managed the American Airlines Center.
Mm-hmm.
They had one night they'd have the Mavs playing, and then the very next night they'd have like the Dallas Stars playing. I'm like, how do you manage a big chunk of ice like that from one day to the next? I mean, I'm sure there's probably a couple of YouTube videos on how to do it, but it's one of those sports markets where they're hardcore about sports. So, but like I was saying, if they don't get much World Series action in the past, I'm sure right now they'll do whatever they can to maintain that.
For our sports fans that are watching on WTF Nation Radio, who's your team and who do you have going into the World Series? If you were a betting person, who do you think is going to win? Let us know. Oh, I'm not supposed to put that up yet. Yeah, hold your horses there. My assistant is messing things up here. Breaking news. I just got a text message from somebody that's watching the show that said that the NCAA is approving a significant change allowing, let me make sure that I read this right here. They're allowing coaches, athletes, and athletic department staff to be able to bet on professional sports starting November the 1st, and betting on college sports remains strictly forbidden. I think that that's still dangerous, right? Because you're talking about having influence on people that from the collegiate level are going to go up to the pros, and you're still going to have, or you could potentially have some influence on some of those athletes. I think that that's a slippery slope. I think that they should still forbid that. And it's one of those that it's just that's the cost of doing business for being in that profession. What say you? Yep. College athletes and athletic department staff. uh they're already there. They're just hidden or on the dark webs. And yep. David Cunningham, to our question about who he's got in the World Series, said that he's choosing the Dodgers. But that's your team, though, ain't it, David? I want to say that that's your team. Let's see. We have NBA news over at the NBA. The NBA has kicked off the new season here. There were two games yesterday. First game up was the Houston Rockets versus the OKC Thunder. That game ended in a wild fashion. So I wish that I could display it. I think if I played it, then we might get zucked. But there was a rebound that occurred by newly acquired Rocket Kevin Durant with about 3 seconds left in the game with the game tied. And he attempted to call a timeout. You could hear him say it. You saw him do the timeout thing like this. The refs didn't catch it. And regular time period ended to send the game into overtime. K Mills, do you know why that's significant if the refs had caught it and the Rockets didn't have any timeouts? Yep. No. So Kevin Durant, it's not like he's a rookie. He is a several time all-star in this league, and he should have known better. Like that requires high situational awareness as they didn't have any timeouts. So if you try to call a timeout when you don't have a timeout, that's a technical, and it would have resulted in the other team going to the free throw line, and OKC could have won the game in the regular time period instead of in overtime. Now they still pulled out the win with SGA winning at the free throw line, as was his narrative last season. But that should have been caught by the refs. I think, you know, given that it was a short preseason, there's still going to be some things that gets ironed out. But I don't give Kevin Durant a pass. He should have known better. In the other game, Golden State played against a LeBron-less Lakers and won 119 to 109. Of significance in that game, Jimmy Butler, who was considered questionable, ended up leading in points for OKC, scoring 31 points, going 7 to 14, hitting all 16 of his free throws, while Luka Doncic led the Lakers in scoring 43 points, going 17 of 27. I always like to pick on Draymond Green here, Mr. Single Triple himself, as Draymond went 3 of 6, 1 of 3 for 3-point, only 1 of 3 from free throws, scoring 8 points, having 2 blocks, 1 steal, and 9 assists. I don't, he thinks he's the best thing since sliced cheese. And I'm like, you play with the guy that is all world. Calm your tits there, Draymond Green. The Lakers starting out 0-1. I mean, they played against a really good Golden State. They played against a really good Steph Curry. But I know that people are going to be like, well, if LeBron played, then, they would end up winning. I don't think that the Lakers are going to have the pieces to be able to do anything this season. That's my take on it. Nope. Now, if you are a fan of basketball, then you are happy for Wednesdays because tonight there are how do you say 12 in Spanish? Doce games being played tonight. Currently right now you've got Cleveland playing against New York in the third quarter. The Knicks are up 79 to 72. The Charlotte Hornets are up against the Brooklyn team 90 to 76 in the third quarter as well. Miami's traveling to Orlando and they're up 85 to 81. In halftime, you've got Toronto leading over Atlanta 65 to 59. And Philadelphia with Joel Embiid, if he can have himself back to a MVP form, I think that Philly team could be a team to mess with. They're up against the Celtics 57 to 51. Some of the other games have kicked off as well. The one that I'm interested in, I'm going to be watching the Battle of Texas at 9:30 over on ESPN. You have the San Antonio Spurs playing against the Dallas Mavericks. That's one of the games that I'm interested in. I like Wemby. I want to see what he's going to do over there. And everybody's talking about Cooper Flag over at Dallas. And I want to see if he's the next coming of LeBron James and is as hyped as people are making him out to be. Oh, no, 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 no. I probably, you know what, I was about to say something on air I shouldn't be saying. So Moving to the last story. We've got Doug Martin here pictured up on the screen. Doug Martin is a uh, NFL veteran, played for the Oakland Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, known for his bruising style, passed away in police custody on the what was it, the 18th, so a few days ago. Now I'm going to bring up an article here. Actually, I can't show this on the screen, so I'm just going to read it here. 2 months before former NFL running back Doug Martin died in Oakland police custody, he was experiencing a mental health related episode as he was placed on an involuntary psychiatric hold after he experienced substance induced psychosis and struggled with sheriff's deputies at a Castro Valley drug rehabilitation center. The Alameda County Sheriff's Office reported that on August the 13th, um, Doug Doug Martin was checked in. He had been barricaded himself into a room and somehow found his way outside of the room, bloodied up a bit, and sheriffs were able to subdue him, calm him down, and get him into um, a more calmer state, if you will. Well, most recently, it was reported that his family had said that he was feeling overwhelmed, and he had fled his house during the night of the most recent incident and entered a neighbor's residence 2 doors down. The cause and manner of his death is that when police showed up, there was a tussle between sheriffs and Doug Martin for this incident. And while trying to restrain him, he ended up passing out. And some people in various different sports forums were saying, oh, this sounds very similar to a George Floyd incident. And I'm curious to see if they're going to release the body cam footage eventually. But it's tragic because this story highlights mental health struggles. Somebody that was an athlete, right? So you can imagine, like, people, I never played pro sports, but I was somebody that was like in the weight room. And even though I haven't worked out in a real long time, I still have some of that strength. And I can only imagine of an athlete
Oh,
that was as
yeah.
built as he was, and you trying to restrain this dude that's going through a mental psychosis. That's not an easy feat for police officers to do.
No, not to mention he has years of experience on pushing other people around. He
Mhm.
knows how to, push his weight, in a way that knocks another guy down. So, just a horrible situation, and it's like you got to ask yourself, it's not like a veteran. You see this kind of thing happen with veterans. I've had it happen with friends, and it's like compared to a veteran, you assume that he probably had the wealth and the means to get help, but some people they just can't shake it.
Nope. Nope. I have experience with one person that, because I had never seen it before, I didn't know what it was. But there was somebody who I knew who was a veteran that had something traumatic happen that I wasn't aware of. This was a lady. She had lost her kid, and I didn't know that she was ever pregnant at any point. Didn't know that she had a kid, and she lost her kid at a very young age. And I was near her when she just all of a sudden started punching herself. And at first, like, I kind of laughed because I thought that she was playing around or joking around. But when I saw that there was something like different about her face, I had to run up and like restrain her until um the MPs came. And then I found out after the fact that the way that it was told to me, she saw a little kid that I guess favored her kid, and that
Uh,
just caused her to going
That
to
trigger.
a psychosis. Yep, and it had triggered her. I don't know what she's doing or how she's doing now because I've tried looking her up. She's not on social media or anything like that. I know that she didn't stay in the Air Force with that. She actually got. Now I'm not gonna say kicked out because I don't know if she got kicked out, but she got discharged. I'm gonna say discharged. She got discharged not too long after that incident, and then I haven't heard from her since. Um, and even with me restraining her, it wasn't like I could easily do it. Like I was way stronger than she was, but it was still a struggle. And oh, and the checked up part about this story. So when the cops came, they see a black dude restraining a young white woman down. Cops almost kicked my ass. I don't tell that story that often because it happened like just that fast. I did have to take down a statement, and it took somebody else that saw what had happened to be able to keep the cops from like whooping my ass. That's why I don't really bang with cops too much like that, man, because I know that they have a difficult job. I know that they have to make a decision based on what they see, man, relatively fast. But man, like I could have got jacked up when I was trying to do the right thing from keeping this young woman from harming herself. So I can
Oh,
imagine what the cops had to go through for a former player that was just, used to using his strength to, make a living and then have to deal with him.
yeah. And it was in the car, right? Were they struggling in the car, or I guess we'll have to wait until we see the body cam footage.
Yep. So I'm going to talk about the two incidences. Going back to the August incident, in the first 48 hours or so, he left the rehab without permission and came back and checked in testing positive for cocaine. So it was almost like he needed to go out, have a hit, and then he came back in. On August the 13th, a clinical supervisor pulled up to the center at around 9 a.m. in the morning and found Martin in the front driveway, dancing with blood on his hands and face. She summoned the deputies, saying that Martin had gone into a psychotic episode. The supervisor had suspected that Martin jumped out of a window of the second floor bedroom and started punching the side of the rehab center. And upon entering the building, the same supervisor found his bedroom door barricaded, so she kicked it open. And Martin's window was open with the screen pushed out. When two deputies showed up, they asked Martin to sit down on a fountain wall, and while he complied, he seemed extremely paranoid. Concerned that he was in trouble, they asked if everything was okay. When the deputies asked if he was armed, he said, kinda. When deputies asked him to explain, his paranoia and agitation ramped up. As deputies explained that they had to pat him down before the paramedics could treat him, Martin stood up. The deputies tried to grab his wrist and they tried to handcuff him, but Martin started to pull away. And when deputies struggled and deputies then struggled to hold on to his arms. Martin then slapped the hand of one of the deputies who punched Martin twice in the nose and in the mouth. I mean, yeah. Again, treating somebody with a mental health psychosis that is also a former athlete has to be dangerous.
I wouldn't want the job.
To wrap up the August incident, deputies found 3 small bags of cocaine in his pocket, as well as a 12-inch chef's knife in a backpack. They also picked up a $50 bill that was coated in a white powder. And while Martin was being treated by the paramedics, he was strapped down, kicking and thrashing while inside of the gurney. They placed him on a 72-hour psychiatric hold and then allowed him to come back to the same medical center, which, according to state laws, allows for a temporary detention and psychiatric eval for possible treatment of individuals who are deemed a danger to themselves. Now, moving forward to the most recent incident, it's being reported that he was restrained outside after being non compliant when the deputies showed up. They then transported him, and en route of transport is when they noticed that he was unconscious. Tragic news, man.
You know what I gotta be curious about is what his childhood was like.
Mm. You know, that's very interesting. I know he played a significant time in the NFL. He was a first round pick.
He was he was born in Oakland and grew up in Stockton. So I'm curious what his family life was like and where, and then what, neighborhood life was like. I mean, he was 36. I can't tell you how many times I have this theory where people who have
Ooh.
serious childhood trauma issues,
Mm-hmm.
that if they don't get it addressed, by the time they hit their early 30s, that's when they're going to start, like, those issues start manifesting mid 30s in bad ways. I've seen it time and time again, whether it's sexual abuse, family abuse, bullying. If they don't get that stuff addressed with therapy or whatever, um, by the time he was 36, so it's like that's prime time for those problems to start bubbling up and wrecking your life if you don't get it, taken care of.
Man, I've never thought about that, but like as you said it, I kind of started thinking about other stories that I'm aware of, and yeah, that mid 30s point is when you really start seeing um unhealed, undiagnosed, untreated trauma cause people to have how do I say this properly? It has impact to their lives, and not just their lives, but the other people that are connected to them as well.
Yep.
Mm, mm. Let me go here, check the comments, and then we are going to close out so I can go watch the game. Let's see. We have David Cunningham said that Draymond Green received his first technical foul in less than 7 minutes in that game. Man, I hope something happens to where he gets multiple suspensions. I don't like him. I don't like him. And if I ever saw him, right? Because people say, "Oh, are we just saying it to his face?" If he asked, I would, and if he asked why, I would say because I think he's a hypocrite. I think he is a hypocrite. There are things that he has said and done that I would put him in a very hypocritical category. I can be a hypocrite at times, but his hypocriticalness is very egregious. And that's why I don't like him. If he asked me, I would say that to him. I wouldn't just unsolicited not say it to his face. But if he asked, yeah, I'd say it to him. David, we are about to end the show, so type up your words of encouragement. K Mills, man, I'm glad that you were able to join. Coach might be on the hot seat, man. Coach, you better be careful. Yes, I am. I want Coach to open the show with a coach's rant. I've created a dedicated scene for him that has flashing red that pops up and a thing that says coach's rant. And I'm trying to get as many as coach's rants as I can during our upcoming episodes. Yes. Yes, and how Angel Reese is the best thing to happen to the WNBA since the WNBA has been incepted. Absolutely. Let's see. Are you looking forward to any of the NFL games this week? Yep, I am too. I like Baker. No doubt. I think that the Bucks are going to have to figure something out. That injury to Mike Evans and him going on IR, uh, that's a huge blow to the offense. Godwin is still listed as out for this upcoming week, so they're going to have to rely on their electrifying rookie and other wide receivers that people don't even know their names. I mean, who's Tez Johnson, and where did this guy come from? But I am with you, man. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. There's been some videos and stuff that I've seen of him and how much of a leader that he is to other men that he plays with. So that's what has me kind of being a fan of Baker Mayfield. I'm also seeing that for the Commanders, Jaden Daniels is out versus the Chiefs, so Marcus Mariota is going to get another start. And uh, the Jets were being asked on who their starter was going to be at quarterback, and their head coach pretty much said, I'm not going to tell y'all because I don't want to give the other team a competitive advantage. But I'm curious to see if Justin Fields is going to remain the starter or not. Oh man, that's going to be the game that everybody's going to be tuned into, no doubt. The Thursday night game is going to be Minnesota versus the Chargers. So ensure that you have your lineup set for that. That Sunday night game, Pittsburgh playing against the Packers. I can't wait for that one. Absolutely. Now let's see. We have David Cunningham has given his word, so I'm going to read that here, and then we're going to sign off. David Cunningham wrote the following. Great show, King and K-Mill. The NBA is back. The Colts are leading the NFL at 6-1, and the MLB World Series starts between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Choose your teams wisely. Thanks for joining us today at the Sports Bar here at WTF Nation Radio. Coming up next is the Smoke Pit with Radar as the host. Please tune in and rest in peace, Doug Martin. Have a great week, sports fan. David Cunningham, thank you. I love your encouraging words to end our show as well. Kay, as the co-host here, I'm going to give you the last word before we sign off. You have the floor, good sir. Again.
King and shots. Everybody have a good weekend.
Man, hold on. I have to come back on here. I don't think anybody heard you because I goofed on my So in summary, say what you said again.
Oh man.
And this time it's proper. My bad.
Well, the obligatory. I didn't know you were going to put me on the spot, but hey, it's Wednesday, everybody. It's Hump Day. The week's on the way down. You know, it's almost the weekend. You know, football's in gear. You got some great games this week. This World Series starting, so don't let the week wear you out. And again, thanks for the invite to King, and not trying to replace Coach. Coach will be back next week for all the right rants, the red rants, where you'll get to see him in the red and shots. Everybody have a good weekend.
All right. People can hear me, but they can't see me. Turning off the sports bar light now. Turn the lights off. And we're out.